Good morning, everybody. It's July 15, 2013. Yes, if you like heat, this is the week that you've been dreaming of. 93 to 95 for the next 6 or 7 days. Do you like heat? I'd recommend if you don't, you better make a trip to Anchorage, Alaska, because the heat wave is upon us here in the Finger Lakes. Good morning, everybody. Another edition of Weber This Week here on FingerLakes1.com. I'm your host, Harold the Dog Weber. And, of course, we try to mix up our show and bring in all types of guests. And today our topic is going to be 2 words, pickleball. I think that's 2 words, but let's talk about that sport. I have been harassed and wrangled by my good friend Carol Ganzon and Marianne Courtney for the last several weeks about following up on this sport, maybe going up and checking on the sport, and getting Jim Sennacobi to come along and shoot some footage of the sport. Without further ado, I did that, and Jim did that last Thursday night in Waterloo at the Waterloo Tennis Courts. And we had an opportunity to have me participate. But before we get into seeing some film, we have our special guest this morning. And that, of course, is Vanessa Nye. Vanessa, welcome to the show. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
And Mark McKoy joins us as well. Mark, good to have you alongside.
Thanks,
Let's talk a little bit about, before we get to the footage of pickleball, let's talk to Vanessa first. Vanessa, give me a little bit about your background, where you went to school. You're from Seneca Falls. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, I went to college at St. John Fisher. That was back in, well, we won't go there, but but I started playing pickleball just a couple of years ago. So.
And it's a fascinating sport. And what got you enthralled into the sport?
Well, someone dragged me along and said, "Hey, you want to try pickleball?" And I went out and tried it and got hooked on the very first night and never stopped playing.
Well, that's awesome. And Mark, of course, you're from Waterloo, correct?
Right.
And tell us a little bit about your background, where you went to school.
Oh, I grew up on the West Coast out in Washington State, went to Washington State University, and then lived 20 years on Long Island before moving up here almost 30 years ago now. And we 2 winters ago, Marianne Courtney was down in Florida, and she started texting us that she was going to come home with this great game. And, of course, describing it is like, that's pretty weird. But but then she did, and she got a good friend, mentor from Canandaigua who first instructed us. And then, so we started playing in Waterloo. And then a few weeks, maybe a month later, Vanessa showed up, and she was playing unknown to us in Geneva for a couple of months. And so then we've all mixed together and been going ever since.
All right, the question that's been asked of me the last few days prior to this interview taking place is, why the name pickleball? Vanessa, I'm going to give it to you. Why is it called pickleball?
Well, there's one rumor that has it is the gentleman who started the game had a dog named Pickles, and he would chase the ball, and that's where kind of the name came around. So.
And, Mark, I know you brought in some instruments to show what that sport is. Mark, explain to our viewers here on Weber This Week. We have Vanessa Nye and Mark McKoy joining us this morning. The subject, pickleball, a hot sport. Mark, talk a little bit about, you got a couple of things to show us with the paddle and the ball. Explain to our viewers what the paddle is made of and what the ball is made of and what the concept of the game is all about.
Well, maybe starting with the court. The court is about the size of a badminton court, isn't it, I think?
Yes.
And so you can fit easily 2 courts on a good tennis court, on one pickleball court on one half, one on the other half. Any flat surface works, so we've got a couple lined out in parking lots, and indoor gyms is most common around here because we're an indoor sport often
Sure.
with the weather. But it basically is a net 2 inches lower than a tennis net, and the idea is like ping pong or tennis, you hit it back and forth. Pickleball is normally played with doubles, unlike tennis, which I think a lot, singles is good, but pickleball you do a lot of running with singles. Normally doubles. It is a hard surface paddle. It's just a hybrid. It's not ping pong. It's not tennis. It's not racquetball or squash or anything. Actually, the game was devised out in the state of Washington, out in Puget Sound. A couple of Boeing retired engineers had tennis courts in their backyard that they really weren't using, and so they wanted a family-friendly game that everybody from mom to the kids could play. And so they came up with the paddles, and as a result of their experience, they're graphite, and they're either a graphite core, honeycomb core, plastic core but it's out of the space age kind of stuff, and then often graphite surfaces or I don't know what other textures, but. And that's the one whose dog was named Pickles, and and they'd hit the ball off the court, and Pickles would take it and run away, so they named the game Pickleball.
As far as the ball goes.
Right. It's a wiffle ball, and that's what people first see, and they say, oh, that's got to be a kid's game. They're playing with a wiffle ball.
Wow.
But it's modified somewhat. The holes for indoor balls are a little bigger. The holes for outdoor balls are a little smaller, so they don't catch quite as much wind. But basically, it's a wiffle ball, and you can set it up in your driveway. And paddles, you can get wooden paddles for under $20, which is great because you can pick them up for the kids and get them started. And then you can get into you can go over $100 with some of the more sophisticated paddles these days. But
I was telling Vanessa, it reminds me of the days when I used to shoot a lot of pool. Guys would walk into pool halls with their own cues in the cases. They'd act like they were Willie Moscone or something like that. And some of the classic days that I remember, I used to shoot a lot of pool. I wasn't very good, but a lot better at pool than I was at this sport. We'll see that in a couple of minutes. But I always marveled at guys walking with their own cues. I said, wow, that guy must be a hustler. But not so many cases. They always wanted to get the best stuff, which is great. Now, before we shoot some film, Jimmy was able to bring out his cameras and shoot some film of the sport. We're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly being myself. But talk a little bit about people that are checking us out this morning. Vanessa and I, Mark McKoy, representing Pickleball, the hot sport that we have heard so much about, and we finally did something about it here on FingerLakes1.com. Talk about whether people are checking us out and want to be a part of it. Where would they go? What would they involve? Did they go to Waterloo? How's that work out?
Well, we have many different places that you can play.
Okay.
Waterloo is one of them.
All right.
We do have a place in Seneca Falls at the community center on Wednesdays. Down in Auburn, YMCA is on Wednesdays and Fridays in the morning. And in Skinny Atlas, we have a place to play. Outdoors at Austin Park is for free.
Wow.
And Geneva, we have 2 nights there. And down in Burdett.
Okay, so there's a lot of opportunities to participate. Yes. Now, if somebody was checking us out and wanted, is there like a website or information out there regarding where you guys play and what the different schedules are? Or is there anything like that?
Well, actually, anyone who wants to look up the sport, you can actually look on the usapa.org site, and it tells all the information about pickleball across the United States.
Wow.
So you can click on places to play, and it'll bring up.
But basically, if somebody's checking us out this morning from the Waterloo, Seneca Falls area and wants to be a participant, you would say the Seneca Falls Community Center,
yes,
or as I remembered, as a rec center, and, of course, Waterloo High School.
Yes.
And in Waterloo being played at the rec center if the weather's bad.
Correct.
Or the courts like we were the other night.
Yes.
If they wanted information, they could call the Geneva Community Center, the Waterloo Rec Center, the Seneca Falls Community Center.
Okay.
And people answering the phone would know, oh, they're here this day, that night. Whatever.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Well, I tell you, folks, let's get ready for some laughter. Not for these guys because they know what they're doing. I know my perverted director and owner just can't wait to roll the film. Let me give you a couple of comments before he starts rolling his film. I went out and I promised Vanessa and Mark that I would roll up to the sneakers and try to participate. I am 68, so I am on Medicaid. And I'm not very good as an athlete. Thank God. I hopefully decent sportscaster. But I went up and I sucked it up for the team and for FingerLakes1.com. Now, I should point out, as you watch the ugly part of this film, when you see me missing the ball quite a few times, there's a reason for that. It was always on my right side. And I have validation that I was hit with an arrow back in 1952. True story, Mark. I can't make this stuff up. I lost 95% of my vision in my right eye. True story. So anytime I go with a paddle to hit the ball on my right side, there's a chance I might miss it. So, Jim, let's roll the film. And here we're going to see film of the great players that know what they're doing. And then this ugly dog. Let's check it out.
Underhand, and you have to keep the paddle. The paddle has to be.
Show them how, Marianne.
And you're going to put it in the far corner.
Like that.
And back of the line.
Back of the line. Well, this ought to be a lot of laps.
Yeah. All right, you're getting a lot closer. Don't be too stiff.
Whiff.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
Ooh, almost.
Almost. Almost. Oh my God.
Perfect.
Look at that.
Oh yeah, it's 1 out of 20.
Yep.
Oh,
There you
nice
go.
shot.
There's 2 out of 20. Oh.
You do have a good slice spin action on your shot
Right.
Yep.
when you hit it.
But I hit it. Oh God.
You know, video would be really useful in analyzing your game.
I hope you got that one on.
Oh my Lord! Burn the tape. Burn the second half of that tape. All right, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Vanessa and Mark obviously knew what they were doing. The dog, of course, missed a lot of right-handers. But I will be back, and I did find it very much fun. And I must confess that Jim has us cover a lot of assignments, and we get compensated. The other night's visit was non-compensatory. I didn't get a dime. I only embarrassed myself for nothing. It wouldn't have been bad if Jim handed me a check after that event, and at least I would have had something to think about. Seriously, I really enjoyed it. I want to tell our viewers that I'm not making this stuff up. You saw how bad I was, but I tried. It is a great sport. It's fun, a lot of laughter, and believe me, at 68, and of course, we all are trying to find out ways to exercise. This is, as you could tell, you're moving, Mark, and you're getting your hands moving. It's certainly a sport that will keep you, I'm not saying it's going to keep you trim and fit down to 100 pounds, which I'll never see again. But the point being is that, for me, it was fun. We had a perfect night to play. And it's good exercise, Mark.
It's good exercise.
So, I mean,
Yep.
It has all the aspects of something that a person would want to engage in. Right, Vanessa?
Yes. And would you say it was easy to learn?
Yeah. I mean, it was not that difficult for me to understand what the reason and why you come up for it if you're somebody serving. And I got sort of the outline of the game, and I definitely will surprise you and come back some night and definitely participate and try to get better at it.
Great.
It would appear, based on what we just saw here, Vanessa and I and Mark McKoy joining us this morning. Our subject this morning is a fast-growing sport in the area called pickleball. Hand-eye coordination, Mark, correct?
Right. Yeah, you don't have to have played any other sports. One of our solid regular players didn't play any sports in high school, college, anything like that, and he's quick, reflexes, and he's, it just kind of comes. It probably is helpful. Maybe one person says that table tennis translates best. I think basketball works because it's a side-to-side motion.
Right.
The fact is we have people that come out and really don't move much at all, but have very quick hands and reflexes. And boy, you can't get it past them unless you're down the side or somewhere, And then some other people, kids, are all over the court, but it's just there are games for everybody. One really nice part of the sport is that you don't play. You're not stuck with a partner.
Right.
In fact, most nights I might not play with the same partner twice, because after every game, games are 2-11, and 2 people would be playing against 2. Then you'd normally, if there are enough people that you'd have to sit out a game, you'd sit out a game and go in with a different combo. Or if the courts are open, you'd normally mix it up anyway. And
Sure.
so you can hit some at your wife or
Now, how about length time of if you're going to stay for the whole duration? A couple hours?
Couple hours.
Couple
Yep.
hours,
That's
okay.
the normal.
Now, Vanessa,
playing time.
before we went on the air this morning, you talked about they had a competition over the weekend.
Yes, Pickle
What-
Fest 4.
Why don't you
at-
update some of the local people that did well?
Well,
Yep.
speaking
Mark?
of Mark and his partner Rich Cowley, won gold medal in their age bracket.
Awesome.
We had another member and her partner, Mary Ham and Rachel Bigby. They won gold in their department.
Where are they
and
from? Mary's from Canandaigua?
Mary's from Canandaigua and Rachel's from Fairport. And then we have George Fairfax, who's from Geneva, and his partner was from Albany. They won silver, and then George was partners with Mary, and I believe they won
Silver again, I
Silver
think.
again. And then we had one of our young players. She's 24. She played singles for the very first time, and she won bronze, and that was just awesome. And then
I'm guessing that the age group of playing this game, if they want to come out, is what? Any age group, basically? I mean, I don't think you want 2 or 3 year old kids out
No,
there. Maybe.
no. You know,
Is there an
kids-
age kind of a breakdown here of what you would think they should participate?
well,
Most players are over 20,
Okay.
and a couple are over 70.
Okay.
So most of our players are between probably 40 and 60, 40 and 70. But
40. I don't remember when I was 40. I don't remember when I was
yeah,
40.
ask her how that is.
I got socks older than she is. I mean, I'm an old dog.
But,
well,
but the strange thing is, you can get a 60-year-old who can whop it past a 40-year-old. I mean, it's just fun because anybody can mix. Both sexes, it's really mixes up.
well, listen, we want to give you guys a chance to say a few parting words before we take our commercial break, and then I come back with a few sport shots. Vanessa, give our viewers an opportunity to understand the sport again and tell them to get out and play with you guys.
hey, if you want to come have some fun and just have a great time meeting new people, come out and try pickleball. Lace up your sneakers.
How about you, Mark?
Everybody's welcome, and you find your level, and you fit in. You get no matter what level you are, you can get a fun competitive game.
Okay, Jim has promised me that at the end of the show we're going to burn up that tape. I like those great. What was that show, Jim, that the tape used to explode on the network? What was that tape? You know,
Mission
there
Impossible.
you go. Jim has promised me as one of his employees that he will burn up the tape at the end of this show. Vanessa Nye and Mark McKoy have been kind enough to carve out 30 minutes of their very busy schedules to join us here on Weber this week. Vanessa, Mark, thank you very much.
See
Thank
you
you.
on the courts.
And
See you in
we're
the
going
courts.
to have you guys sit pat for a few more minutes. We're going to run through our great sponsors and make this show possible. And then we'll switch from pickleball to some other sports as I give my weekly sports shot rundown coming up after this. Thanks, guys. You stay right there and we'll just get a picture of you in a minute. It's good. And there's a lot more that check it out later. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Dog with you here on another edition of Weber This Week. We're getting ready to wrap it up, but as we have always done on this show, the last couple of minutes, I try to run down a few sports shots that I think are noteworthy, depending on how you feel. Certainly the tragic situation up at the wonderful Muscle Man this past weekend felt terrible. I'm sure everybody else agrees with me with that cyclist getting killed, hitting that car that was parked on the side of the road. As tragic as that was, and our sympathy goes out to his family. Certainly, Jeff Henderson has done another masterful job with the wonderful Muscle Men staged on the lakefront in Geneva, New York. They have drawn almost 10,000 athletes. They just celebrated their 10th anniversary this past weekend. 100 folks from hometown Geneva participated. This is the most ever. I'd like to send out kudos to my good friend Jessica Cosentino, who also participated. All types of categories. It's a phenomenal event, and again, it was marred by an unbelievable tragedy. Well, if you're a baseball fan, of course, now we take the familiar All-Star break, which is normal. This is a time of the year in July. The game will be played at Citi Field, the home of the New York Mets. Of course, if you look at the baseball standings, you have to wonder what's going on with certain teams. Toronto, of course, loading up their payroll, buying all these free agents. They look like they're in big trouble, and you got to wonder what their team management is thinking, and especially the owner who doled out millions and millions of dollars as Toronto is struggling. Speaking of struggling, yes, the Yankees have got a ton of people on the disabled list again and again and again. The A-Rod situation is still uncertain whether or not Major League Baseball will suspend him. Rumor has it they may, then he'll fight it, then there'll be an arbitrator. This could get ugly. You kind of feel sorry for Derek Jeter, who definitely will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He comes back after being out several weeks. The very first game, he's out again until after the All-Star break. And, you know, personally, being a sports guy, I hope that Derek decides enough is enough. If this body is not going to react, he is 39 years old, which, of course, to me, that's young. But maybe it's time that he maybe give consideration saying goodbye if he's going to keep having these chronic injuries. I don't want to see Derek Jeter hanging around and becoming an asterisk in the New York papers. And by the way, speaking of baseball, I know that Bill Owen and Mike Cotillo, my good buddy up in the Geneva Times, Finger Lakes Times, big Pittsburgh Pirate fans, could this be the year the Pirates finally get to a playoff opportunity? The Pirates playing great baseball, phenomenal baseball, one of the best records, if not the best record in baseball. If we have to wait and see whether or not this could be the year, finally, that the Pirates not only play good for half a season, but play good for the entire season. And I guess with a couple athletes to my right, namely Vanessa and Mark, you wonder how many more deadbeats in the world of sports are going to get caught taking banned drugs. The latest, of course, the gentleman's name is Tyson Day, of course, the gentleman, the fastest human on this planet, getting suspended or not going to participate in the World Championships next week as he tested positive for yet another banned drug. You got to wonder, Lance Armstrong, this dude, and the list continues to grow and grow and grow. You just wonder what these athletes are thinking. Are they not going to get tested? Yes, they are. Will that blood test show something? Yes, it will. You wonder why they think they can still get away with it. It just blows my mind. Well, let's go to the world of golf. How would you like to be the caddy of a young man named Jordan Spieth? Jordan Spieth, the first teenager to win a PGA Tour event in 82 years, yesterday at the John Deere Classic in the Midwest. He wins a 5-hole playoff. Jordan Spieth has made over $2 million, who will be eligible for the FedEx playoffs, and this kid's got a lot of game, and of course, setting an historic mark, winning a PGA event. The first teenager to do it in 82 years. Well, once again, thanks to Vanessa and Mark for joining us here on Weber this week. Next week, I won't be in the studio. Jim will come up with some show, probably play that film again of seeing me miss the ball about 19 times. I'll be back in 2 weeks on the 29th, when we'll have the eccentric billionaire, I'd always call him that, Norm Sharman, the owner of Silver Creek and many other enterprises, will be on the couch. We look forward to talking to Norm, and he does a great Bill Clinton impression. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again to Vanessa and Mark for joining us. You have a great week. And remember, if you like hot weather, you're in great shape. If you don't like hot weather, get out of Dodge. Take care, everybody. Until next time.